Could I have your attention, please? It's about a little after 3:15, and I think we'll get started here. First of all, I want to thank you all for turning out this afternoon. This is the third workshop we've had, and it's another great turnout. I would just let you know the last two we've been very well attended, about 70 and about 85 people. I think we're up there in the 60s or so tonight. I think you're in for a treat. My observation is that everybody's has been engaged and had an active time at these and participated well. So I'm sure you'll do the same. This is a workshop to help us explore future transportation and land use options for the next 20 years. And in this case, it's even a longer time period that you'll be looking at. I hope all of you did get signed in. You have a name tag. If you didn't, you can, at the table there, you can take care of that. We also have a bunch of comment cards around, flyers. They're 8.5 by 11s, and if they're on the desk at the door, if you get through tonight, take one with you. They've got our contact information on it. If you think of something later on that you wish you would have said or let us know about, it'll tell you how to get that comment to us. So keep those in mind. We do have some light refreshments over on the table at the east wall, and after you've had your refreshments, there are restrooms that are out the door down the hall to the left. So it's a bit of a hike, so plan ahead. Like I said, our goal is to get you out of here by 9 o'clock. By 6 o'clock. I'm sorry. That was the last two nights. I'm a little tired. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop anybody's heart there, including my own. So I hope you all have a great time. I know you will. And to begin, Tim Watkins, who's with Envision Utah and is one of the sub-consultants on this project, will sort of guide you through the process you'll be going through tonight, some of the sort of principles, the rules of the game, as it were. So with that, Tim, I'll let you take over from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank all of you for being here tonight. My name is Tim Watkins. I'm part of the Wilbur Smith consulting team for this long-range transportation plan update, which begins with a vision, which really begins this week and right now with your participation. So I not only thank you for caring about your community and your region, both today and tomorrow, but I also compliment you for participating in a very unique process that has only been done a handful of times around the country in metropolitan regions, and is particularly rare to be done in a smaller metro region such as yours at 100,000 people. So tonight I'll just be discussing and give you an overview of the Envision Missoula process and the activities that we'll engage in tonight. And we will continue to press forward with the presentation and give you some ideas to consider as you work together as a table. Okay, so tonight's activities will help determine tomorrow's roads, transit lines, and trails that will be added into a new transportation plan that begins tonight and will help guide the spending of hundreds of millions of dollars to help keep Missoula mobile into the future. All right, so the typical transportation planning process is that we collect the general plans or future growth ideas or policies of communities, cities and county, and we analyze those for the trip generation that they will produce, the number of homes and businesses that will generate trips, and then build a transportation plan that attempts to address the needs or the transportation demand of the land use. Unfortunately, this can yield some unintended consequences. and it seems to work better when I point to the screen. And this is for several reasons. One is that typically a general plan and many transportation plans only look out 20 years into the future. And so perhaps a road or a transit facility is built for 20, 25 years worth of growth, and yet that same transportation facility must also service the following 20 to 50 years worth of growth. So sometimes we don't look far enough into the future, and we can overwhelm the facilities that we build. And then sometimes plans are not followed. They can change, they can be updated, and take a whole new course. So tonight we would like to draw inspiration from Alice in Wonderland and say that if we don't know where we're going, we may end up somewhere else. So the process that we'll be going through in this visioning exercise will be perhaps first to ask ourselves, what type of transportation system would we like? How would we like it to operate? What kind of mobility options would we like to have? What would we like our air quality to be like? And then ask ourselves, how can we best plan our land uses to support that type of transportation system we want? And even more broadly, we can ask ourselves, what is the quality of life that we desire for our region, both for ourselves or our posterity in the future? And how can we best plan the transportation and land use to best work together to achieve that goal in mind? So to do that, tonight we will be looking at accommodating or doubling the current workforce and population of the Missoula region. That would be an additional 100,000 people, which equates to 50,000 more homes and 60,000 more jobs. And the input that you provide us tonight will be, we expect a diversity of ideas to be offered and broad range of input. And so what we'd like to do is develop what we call scenarios. You can see 3 question marks representing scenarios that would test different land use and transportation combinations to see how they perform and see if we like that type of future when we double. I could even say when and if we double, but we're not predicting when that will happen. And then we can react to those scenarios and determine which one or which elements of each scenario we'd like to keep and incorporate into a final transportation and land use vision. So we can contrast the choices that we have today or the ideas that we have today and project the long-term consequences. Kind of like crash test dummies before you invest a lot of money in developing a new vehicle line. All right, so scenarios. We will look at combinations of future land use and the transportation to support those land uses and test them for air quality. How much land is developed, which has implications for how far apart our driving destinations are and determines in the end how many miles we drive to get to our destinations. How successful will transit use be? And how much traffic will we end up generating, both in terms of miles driven as well as the time that we spend in our vehicles? How much carbon dioxide will be emitted? How much resulting open space might contribute to the quality of life, and how much housing variety will be available, or how much travel demand will be generated by the different types of housing and location of housing. So our focus tonight is on how we grow, and we are able to look at a range of decisions that we could make today, looking at 200,000 population or doubling, simply to help us see the potential of very long-term consequences so that we can pick the right trajectory to work on achieving as a region. And, you know, there are different areas in our country and not so far away that perhaps wish that they could have gone through a process similar to this. Look at Bend, Oregon, for example, that doubled from 75,000 to 150,000 in about 25 years. Boise, Idaho doubled to 600,000. St. George, Utah nearly tripled to 135,000 from about 50,000. So just to give you an overview of the Envision Missoula process, we're going through our workshop phase. We will take all of your input, digitize it, analyze it, and we will come back to you with scenarios that provide different interpretations of the input we received from you. You'll be able to see those in January, and then we will have what we call the Envision Missoula Summit in February, where we will have a large community dialogue and talk about the pros and cons of the scenarios and how we'd like to distill them down into a final vision scenario and transportation planning principles targeted for the month of March. And all of this information will feed into the transportation plan that will respond to the vision. So the transportation plan will hopefully go on to the proper trajectory, even though it will look for the year 2035, the goal will be to adopt a plan that follows the vision and the guiding principles of the vision. Okay, so a little more about scenarios. All of them share in common that they accommodate the same population and the same employment, but they differ in how their transportation networks operate, largely because they have different development patterns and there are different transportation demands because of the different development patterns. And then we can test the long-term consequences of these different strategies and test their performance. One of the scenarios will be what we call a baseline scenario. This serves as a reference point that takes our past growth trends and our past transportation needs and projects that into the future. This is based on the existing general plans and the past growth trends. And we're not saying it's good or bad. We're just simply saying here is the growth path that we've been on, the transportation demand that we've been generating, and here it is projected into the future. I think I'm averaging 5 clicks for every slide advance I get. But so what this baseline scenario might look like, we've done some studies, but it is still to be completed, but we anticipate that the average person would drive about 30% more. The time stuck in traffic may more than double, and over 100 new square miles of land would be developed to accommodate this new growth. So tonight we can look at different alternatives, and we can pretend that each of you are an elected body or an appointed committee charged with exploring growth solutions that will benefit the future. And so for the Five Valley area, you will ask questions of where is development preferred or not preferred. You might vision new places, new activity centers, new neighborhoods, perhaps some new housing types or business types that are not currently available. And what will this look like for another 100,000 people? And certainly what types of transportation ideas will then help these people get from home to work, from home to play, home to school. And again, with transportation, we're talking both for vehicles, highways, arterials, buses, and bike and pedestrian trails and safety enhancements. So the tools that you have to express your ideas tonight include the base map on your table, markers, transportation tape, chips that reflect different types of development and represent the area of land that is required to accommodate that development. And we have I might just have to hug over here a little bit. The base map with the green areas would be constrained land that would either be steep slopes that cannot be developed, might be federally owned land that won't be developed, and also some floodplains or other constrained lands that are protected. If we look a little bit closer in on the map, we can see some colors. The yellow, for example, represents existing development or residential development. The purple and red colors would represent commercial development. The base map is a depiction of Missoula and the surrounding region as it stands today. And then to that base map, you will add how you think future growth should be added to it. And I think at this point I'll ask someone to help me advance the slides, if I could. Would you mind sitting next to the computer, and every time I point, please advance, thank you. So some recommended steps would be to start with your green marker and discuss what areas you think should be preserved from development. Hatching with a green marker. Advance again, please. You know what, I think that might be part of the problems. Okay, I'm just going to advance it because there's a lot of little in-betweens, but thanks for volunteering. Okay, and just like to discuss the chips that you have. They are different sizes to reflect the amount of land required to accommodate different densities of development. So you can see the suburban low density, for example, 500 homes consuming a certain amount of land for third and half acre lots, whereas the suburban median density might be quarter and fifth acre lots, which consumes a smaller land area to accommodate the same number of homes. So if you don't like the chips that have been given to you as expected, as the typical growth pattern for Missoula and the surrounding area, you can trade your chips. You can simply say, we don't want to consume as much land for the very large lot type of development, and we can trade it for a medium or smaller lot. Or the other direction, you could have a small lot chip and say, we instead want to have larger lots and consume more land, spread out a little more, and trade those. So talk to your table facilitator. Could all of the facilitators please raise your hands? And they are your chip broker. They will help you trade your chips. I'd just like to go over some of the different chip types. And these include what we call the rural estate, which would be anywhere from a 2 to, say, 7 acre lot. These average about 5 acre lots. And this is just a depiction of what that might look like going from existing condition today to the future. You can see it expands, how homes spread out. Whereas a cluster alternative, there would be a density bonus. You notice the homes increase from 250 to 500 on about the same amount of land, but those homes are developed into neighborhood clustered areas, and then there's some land preserved, and that land could be for agriculture, it could be for a golf course, recreation, or it could be for wildlife habitat. And you can have that type of discussion. Suburban low would be half third acre lots. Suburban medium would be about quarter to fifth. Suburban high would include condos, townhomes, and also some small single lot, maybe eighth acre type single family homes. Village residential implies a mix of single family homes, a little bit of medium, a fair amount of small lot single family, and perhaps some townhomes. Going back to some of the more traditional urban but smaller scale urban areas. And whereas neighborhood center starts to add some amenities, some commercial amenities, some work opportunities. This implies that there are opportunities to not have to drive as far to get some basic services in your neighborhood. And then we have our typical commercial, which would be larger big box and strip development, usually along busier arterial streets. A big box center is similar, but perhaps a little more thematic in its development with some more maybe theme-based activities, or it might be a movie theater complex with some activities nearby. Office park is where we put our 40-plus hours a week in and travel to those areas to provide goods and services to the area. Now, these would be your activity center chips. And town center, city center, and urban core are all similar. You might just picture town center as being maybe 2 to 3 stories, city center as maybe 3 to 7, and urban core is going up from there, maybe 8 stories to 15 or so. But they all share in common that they have commercial, office, and residential either in the same building or on the same block. And therefore, there are many people living and working in one concentrated area. And these tend to very much support transit ridership because more people live or work near a transit stop. So you can study these different development types. We have place type menus at your table, and you can see that there are little bird's eye views of what a typical neighborhood would look like developed at a certain density, pictures of the type of housing. And then we'll talk about the transportation types here, for which there is also a menu. Okay, so the transportation types include walking and cycling. Green would be for your trails. Yellow would be for dedicated bike lanes or routes, or just roads that would have sufficient width for biking. Automobile, we have, I think your menu will actually represent better than what we see here, but your black marker tonight will be minor arterial roads. The thicker black tape will be for your major arterial roads, and then red will be for highways. Could be a larger highway or a high-speed highway or freeway even. Whereas transit would be the light blue. You have a thin blue tape for frequent bus service and a thicker blue for what we call bus rapid transit or streetcar, which is a higher capacity transit system. So bike facilities, trails, and pedestrian paths. Again, bikes are yellow, trails are green. Here's my colors. Collector road, thin black, and that's your marker. Arterial road, thick black tape. And larger, higher speed highways and freeways, red. Frequent bus service, thin blue. High capacity transit, thick blue. Now, after you complete the exercise, we will each take the opportunity to hear from a spokesperson from each table and listen to a 2 or 3 minute summary of the ideas that you have for how you think the region will best operate and circulate in the future, grow, operate, and circulate in the future. So we encourage you to vision. We encourage you to feel free to explore any and all ideas. You're not creating a definitive plan tonight. You're expressing ideas, and everyone's opinion counts. Sometimes you need to agree to disagree and form even if you need to, a rough consensus. And then the facilitators are here to help, but you as the elected body at your table are in control. So just like to give you a few transportation and ideas to consider, particularly how transportation and land use affect each other or might be considered simultaneously. So typically employers and homeowners really just want to try to minimize the time it takes to give around. And if we can plan our land uses such that we can shorten trips between destinations, that can go a long ways towards making a region mobile. Also, when a new road is built, it tends to attract growth. This is a new road that was built in this area of where you had a fair amount of vacant land, and you can see how when a new road was built, this is the land development that followed because it became more accessible. New growth can also be built in underutilized areas, such as commercial areas that are starting to maybe decay or not be as popular as they used to be. This shows a progression of enhancing an underutilized area, underutilized urban area existing today, and then we start to see some enhancements for pedestrians to make it more appealing for walking, more appealing for transit use, and then the land use development type that would support the ridership to justify this type of transit service. So again, we see many more people living and working closer to transit stops, and folks that can walk conveniently to a transit are 5 times more likely to use that transit service. So again, the idea of putting destinations closer together. If you want to get from your home to the ice cream store, if it's beyond a half mile, you're probably going to take the car, especially in colder weather. But if it's closer, you're more likely to walk and bike to the ice cream store. Or take a shorter vehicle trip. So less time in the car, less miles traveled, or more likely to walk or bike or take transit. Also, the idea of a grid pattern, whether it's a modified organic grid or a strict square grid, really doesn't matter. It's the idea of connectivity. Here we have thinner roads or fewer lane miles per road, or say 2 lanes per road. Here we have multiple lanes on a central arterial road, and these subdivisions outlet onto that major arterial or collector arterial, which really tends to fill that central collector up. Whereas here, there are many options for turning and driving in different directions. So we have better traffic dispersal here and actually have greater capacity with the grid pattern. So sometimes just by how we develop, we can eliminate the demand for some expensive facilities. The same idea expressed again, we have some very wide arterial roads here. Here, these are thinner roads, but they're just spread out on more of a continuous grid pattern, and we'd have more capacity to move traffic here. These are 2 scenarios generated in a case study from Merced, California. Here you can see these activity mixed-use centers in one alternative, linked by transit. You also see some arterial roads. It's not entirely one or the other in this case. You also see that the homes and some of the business areas are connected by continuous street grid pattern. Whereas here we have more dead-end streets. We have major inlets and outlets onto collector or arterial streets, and we tend to have our commercial areas along busier arterial roads. And the scenario with the centers and the connected streets actually generated 20% fewer vehicle trips. The driving distance is shortened by 30%, and there were 30% fewer streets that had above 30,000 average daily trips. So this really helps to illustrate the connection between land use and transportation that you can explore tonight. This just provides a view of maybe 2 districts of a community or 2 communities, with the blue being the transit service. If just a minority of the land area along that, where the key transit stops are, converted to areas of greater activity, including more people living and working, then you can bolster the ridership along that transit facility. So tonight you can, for example, on the right, you could place activity centers connected by transit to express support for high transit ridership. You could explore commercial areas, more conventional commercial areas, in your own creative adaptation of arterial roads, or combine these 2 ideas into your preferred solution. So after the workshops, we will laboriously collect every little data point on your map and enter it into the computer and analyze it and look for the common themes, and look for the preferred routes and the preferred destination points, and determine what areas are most popular and what new interesting and unique ideas emerged. And then these will feed into the scenarios. We can answer, how did hundreds of people's ideas become transportation and development scenarios? How did the scenarios perform? What do they mean for our quality of life? And then in February, at a summit, we'll have a discussion about these scenarios. We'll actually be able to have some live keypad polling sessions where we can see live what the preferences are looking like for future transportation systems and quality of life in our region. So again, this is just the overview of Envision Missoula. Workshops, alternative scenarios in January, summit in February, distilling the scenarios down to a preferred vision scenario and transportation planning principles, which will then feed into the final transportation plan that will be adopted. Okay, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to let you get to work. Remind the facilitators of the chip trading table, and please make sure you have our website noted. It's also on your questionnaire sheet. So, you bet. I'll leave it on that slide, but your facilitator will certainly help you with those steps. And you don't have to follow the steps that we've outlined. If you'd prefer to start with transportation tape, feel free to do so. If you want to start with your chips, it's up to your table. So I'm going to let you get to work for the next hour and a half. It's going to go quickly, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun. Thank you.
They do not have a facilitator table.
Oh.
Now you just build higher.
Okay, that's 3,000 homes on the fairgrounds?
6,000.
6,000. Wow. What do you think about?
Well, not just homes. It's
There are
suburban
chips that
commercial,
represent
4,000
100,000 people,
jobs.
which is the projected
I
growth.
want
Big
some
buck.
combined. I want
40 to
residential
45
and
years.
Neighborhood
All
cluster,
projections.
1,000
So
jobs,
those chips
2,000
represent
homes.
those households and
Okay, we
jobs.
can't trade any of these
The
people.
tape
So we're
represents
gonna have
the
to put
different
them somewhere
transportation
else.
types.
But you could put,
that
you could put
growth
these with them.
and land use.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The idea is
Instead
to
of having it
place
combined.
both the job.
One of the things you're going to fight downtown is nobody wants their view of the mountains or their view of the river impeded. So, you know, we're going to run into the dilemma of you're saying, you know, let's build higher here because we've already.
Hey, those of you that are finalizing your maps, we'll let you finish up as we begin the first presentation here. Why don't we start with table number 3. Table number 3, could we have a spokesperson come up and share your strategy with the audience? And if you don't pick a spokesperson, I'll pick one for you. We can play bubblegum in a dish. Okay. So please take the microphone, and if you'll all please adjust to a whisper and turn your chairs this way, we will hear what Table 3 has to present.
Well, as you can see, we all got really bored and just started putting a whole lot of tape on the page. A lot of it is just pretty much enhancing what's already there, like the bike and the bus services. Bus services extended to Lolo, Frenchtown, Bonner. That's the rapid transit bus service sort of stuff. We developed some more in Grant Creek, some more in the Rattlesnake. We also included an emergency-only access, would be an alternative access between Grant Creek and the Rattlesnake. So because both those areas right now only have one way out. Snowbowl is expanding to the west. We put some stuff in there with their expansion. A lot of the development ended up in here because there was kind of like nowhere else to put it. We put community centers in Frenchtown and Bonner and Lolo. And of course with that came the jobs and the development. And this here is infill. There's still quite a bit of infill that could go on in some areas within the city which would handle a larger population. And we just kind of spread it out a little bit, I guess.
Okay.
Anything else anybody wants to say?
Not that it matters, but here we go. Here's Kim.
Well, we approached this from the standpoint of, number one, our facilitator was great and she had to leave early and we wanted to make Michelle proud of us. The other thing is we approached it from the idea of being the cluster crew, the transit titans, and the global gorillas. So with that, we had to motivate ourselves. So with that, we went ahead and our goals were to take a generational view at what we were laying out. We felt that, you know, this is an area and a community that we like to live in now. We want people to feel that same way 50 years from now. So we wanted to make sure that we try to retain some of the flavor of what it is we all love about our community. And so what we did was we laid all this out. With respect to open space, we want to encourage more conservation donations, such as you're seeing up on Dean Stone and out in the Dayshaw Lane area. We also wanted to preserve the hillsides and not build up and over the top of every single ridge so that we don't lose our views. We wanted to also be mindful of the agricultural areas and not just pave over all of those. And areas like Orchard Homes, rural areas like that have a neighborhood plan that want to retain that, we wanted to be respectful of that. So as far as our transportation, we wanted to expand our bike and walking trails to and through essential areas. And you'll see that we've got them going all the way from Bonner. We've tied it all the way into Lolo. And we've just expanded those trails and gone right along, the railroad line and the highway. We also, in town, went ahead and, there we go, expanded them all in throughout there, the bike trails and the walking trails. We also brought in the passenger train from the Bitterroot into the downtown area and expanding off towards Bonner and Frenchtown. We put in a bypass and an alternative arterial, and I'll tell you that we didn't have complete consensus on that. We saw the logic behind it. We saw the potential need for it. We weren't exactly sure how to do that in the best possible way and wished we had had more time to fine-tune some of this. But in looking at Highway 93 and realizing that if you have an accident and Life Flight has to land, you have shut down your only way really in and around the valley. So what we've done is we've kind of looked at an area where there could be a larger arterial road, and then tied in and around, bypassing some of that. We also wanted to increase the high mass transit, and we didn't have enough taper time to do all of that, but you can see, we've expanded those areas, and we'd like to see service every 10 to 15 minutes. That would encourage people to go ahead and use it more. You wouldn't mind waiting for a bus for 10 minutes, okay, as opposed to a half hour or 40. So as we proceed into the future, that's one of our goals. As far as homes and residential, we wanted to see more mixed use and density in the downtown area, as well as some of the areas such as along West Broadway, going along with the charrette process that many of us went through, and then in the expressway area. And then also in pocket communities such as East Missoula, Bonner, Frenchtown, and again out in the expressway, putting in more of your whatever they called those things, neighborhood centers, and lots of people working, lots of people living, lots of people loving life. How's that? We had a fun table, what can I tell you? And then basically on the box stores, we realized that as expansion happens, that we are going to have box store areas. One of the things that we wanted to look at was encouraging them to be responsible and consider things like underground parking so that we're not losing so much land mass, and then also building up and even having residential, up over areas such as that. We put in more development, as I said, out in the Bonner area, in between Missoula and Lolo, and then down on the other side of Lolo and through there, and then back out in Frenchtown. And we really liked this whole rural cluster thing because we thought that, that gave you a concentration of houses, but still gave you quite a bit of open space in and around that. And am I forgetting anything, guys? The gorilla will be quiet now. Would you like that?
Thanks. Just a reminder, if you've got table notes, could you please leave those, put your table number on them so we get your thoughts there too. Thank you.
Let's see.
Number four.
Thank you. Table number 4 prioritized saving agricultural lands, I think from the get-go. We identified some areas in the Frenchtown Valley, up the Rattlesnake, and just west of Missoula in the Mullen Road area. And we also developed city centers in Lolo, in Bonner, and in the mouth of the Grant Creek area. Urban cores, 2 urban cores in the Missoula downtown area, 1 on each side of Higgins. Construction growth, shopping area in the Lolo area with a number of neighborhoods, increasing density in that area, increasing density around the Southgate Mall and Trempers area, in some areas where land is not highly developed. Two neighborhood centers, or neighborhood center here in the Big Sky area, high school area, and some other suburban high areas around state lands out there. And neighborhood center in the Flynn area, Flynn Lane area. And let's see here. And of course, you can see we did develop an extensive trail system, bike system, and of course, a rail system out of the Bitterroot and from Bonner out to Frenchtown. Oh, the arterial here? Well, one of the things that the Miller Creek or especially Lower Miller Creek folks have had is moving traffic out of that area. And what we looked at here is if a commercial core is developed in the Lolo area, this would probably be a reasonable way to go. Now, obviously, we know there's a lot of pressure to build a bridge across the Bitterroot River into the Blue Mountain area. But that's one thing we took in mind. It'd be a lot easier for the Miller Creek folks to get to this commercial center than to come to a commercial center this way.
Did your table place all their chips?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
And the previous two tables, is that the same? Yep. Thank you.
Some really great thought took place on table 4, maybe.
Table number 8, please. Table number 8. Two spokespersons.
Our table had a lot of consensus, except about who was going to come up here. So I guess I can start out by saying we didn't add any roads. It had a lot to do with parks and trails and bicycle and ped accommodations, and the urban core or town center type notion, which you can see out in these areas. So if we are going to grow out there, let's make sure that the people have all the services they need so they don't have to drive back and forth. Wait a minute. This isn't ours.
That's table 10.
But this is the same idea we had. It looks identical.
Is that table 10?
Table 10.
Sorry.
Let's grab table map number 8.
I was looking for the passenger rail notation and okay. We actually added some residential housing. So we allowed for, I don't know if there's 3,000 more homes, maybe 3,000 more people. So we have these town centers out here in Bonner and East Missoula, and this clustering concept out at the Y area. Lots of emphasis on rapid transit, on public transit, by trails on the roads and trails for recreational purposes all the way out to Seattle, passenger rail to Seattle, passenger rail to New York, passenger rail to Whitefish. And we traded almost all of our low-density housing chips for high-density and kept everything really close into the core except for a couple of the rural cluster developments, which are a good tool for maintaining some open space further out. Trails, trails, trails. And
our goal and our decision making was quality of life, and the main thing that came out almost immediately was open space. That was really important to our quality of life. The one thing we kept wanting was, as we put in our commuter trains, was thinking about where the parking areas. We didn't have any chips to designate parking bicycle lockup areas for train bus commuters. And as far as creating jobs, we were really focusing more, as far as quality of life, of creating jobs that would help contribute to a sustainable green city. So that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's take table number 10 now, since a portion of your map has been presented already. Set the record straight.
Yeah, that would have been impressive if you could present our table's work. So. We had a lot of good discussion at our table, if not a lot of consensus, but I think a couple of the things that came out, there was a lot of doubt at our table about the ability of the valley to accommodate 100,000 more people, and the question of how that affects the ecology and water and waste and air quality in the valley. So that was sort of a fundamental question as we went forward, but we did try to put all our chips on the map, and we ended up trading a lot of our lower density chips for higher density chips, and kind of centered around the theme of growing with density in nodes, and that would support transit. So a node in Bonner, East Missoula, a node out in Frenchtown, a node down in Lolo, and then a city center node in downtown. And then in between those nodes, smaller centers, neighborhood centers with jobs and higher density housing along those transit lines. Most of the people in our group felt like people prefer single-family housing. So we needed to provide a variety of housing types, but also we need to work on changing people's perceptions of housing, where people live and how they live, in order to support a higher density pattern. Bike ped network was really important for our group too, both on-street improvements and off-street green trails. And we also talked quite a bit about improvements within existing streets for transit, bike and ped. Just the existing bus network, kind of a local bus network being improved. So, the other big one was open space and trying to put the density in so that we can preserve the open spaces, the higher hillside areas, that type of thing.
You got all your chips placed?
We did place all our chips. Did I miss anything?
Okay. Thank you. Good job. Table number 2.
Thank you. We also had a great group, and a lot of consensus is that our emphasis was on the open space, trying to move people through bike paths, light rail, more frequent bus service, and that sort of thing. Instead of the roads, we kind of went back and forth, even talked about adding bridges and whatnot, but sort of stopped there, because we'd really like to move people around other than vehicles around. Move them again by the bus, the light rail, expanded service all across in here. Again, we like the Seattle to the New York area, both light rail and also bike and pedestrian trails that are combined all along the river and down into the Bitterroot to move everyone. We also traded for the low density to the high density, wanted to have the open space up in here, have some of the quality of life that we can keep on going in Missoula, and also put in a couple town centers, keep the downtown and also make the north side their own little downtown section as well. And then also expanding in Bonner, Milltown area, Target Range area, getting a little bit more there, and then also up in the Miller Creek area as well, just so that they have their services, not having to come back and forth into town.
You got all your...
What else today? I think we just had a couple of them that were left, and that was all, a couple of the smaller areas. Am I forgetting anything? Oh, preserving the farmland down over in here, also for the open space down along the river. For agriculture was another key area, as well as just open space in itself. And also up in the Deanstone area in here. Adding some more bike trails, enhancing what we have. Anything else?
Thank you, table. Table 5, please.
Okay, well, everybody's already said everything that we had in mind, so thank you. Well, we started, our first approach was to look at transportation. Okay, and then after we got transportation sort of figured out, then it was, now where are we going to put all these people? And then when we went, where are we going to put all these people? It came to, now we're going to create all these jobs. And so that's kind of the angle that we worked at. And again, as people have said, some kind of a mass transit of some sort, you know, from the Bitterroot on up into town, and then from over in the East Missoula, Bonner area, and then Frenchtown making some neighborhood communities or whatever the term was over here. Again, in Frenchtown to come into Missoula and then to Bonner. My wife and I live in Clinton, so we didn't want to be excluded. So making, again, that part of the cluster there. And then when it came to where we wanted to put all these people, it was, again, preserving a lot of the open space kind of areas with game corridors between Mount Jumbo and Mount Sentinel, as whereas down here, where are we at? Down here in the area of Bonner. And then with kind of, or excuse me, Lolo and no build areas down in there. And then what we did is traded a lot of our chips in for high density chips with here in the downtown Missoula area, again with the business kind of clusters, and then the more consolidation of the folks, and again preserving a lot of the outlying places, but with transportation of sorts into town, as well as into town. Another issue that came up was like transit change stations on the buses, where apparently now there's just the one uptown, and there's a proposed one over down South Reserve Street area, but there's only two, and so it makes it kind of tough to get around and changing. And and then highway from the Y out there on up to Kalispell, pull the lake area up there. So thank you.
Table 7.
We struggled with where to put all the homes and things. We started off with identifying, as most of you did, a lot of green space. And we did a 200-foot setback on all the rivers and waterways, and that may or may not happen. We then identified housing centers that we already know are planned, that are coming online. So we did the Bitterroot Resort. We did the Schroeder Ranch across Highway 93 from there. We made Lolo a major center. We did the Bonner Milltown area, a little more in the Bannerman Flats. We moved on up to the Frenchtown direction. And you can see we put a lot of major rail lines in and a lot of busing. So we tried to connect all the bus routes where we were putting all the homes. Anything else, 7? There's only 2 of us left, so we can say anything we want at this point. But we looked at more of where we knew things were already happening and how could we run routes out to those.
Table 1.
Number 1.
Table number 1.
I guess I got the short straw. There's only 3 of us left, I think. One of the things we started out with was the problem, of course, with the Missoula Valley, as everybody knows, is it's very constrained. And everybody wants to protect the hillsides, and everybody wants to protect the agricultural land, and there ain't nothing left. So we got to put 100,000 people somewhere. But given that, and everybody, of course, wants to protect the open space, of course, the theme we keep hearing is repetitive, I think. We've got to, I don't remember all these colors, and some of the things we kind of summarize down here, bus routes, kind of following all the bike lanes and to connect the, I can't read the writing. Connect to recreation sites. We want to, we put town centers, as a lot of other people did at Bonner and at East Missoula, and we put one at the Y, and we put one out at Frenchtown, and we put one at Lolo. I guess we've got another one out kind of in the South Missoula area, in the vicinity of maybe the fairgrounds or that area. And then we've got a lot of little neighborhood centers. We also traded a lot of the lower density, although I noticed in looking at the density chips we had, there was kind of a gap. We had, I think we went from 1 to 5 to 2 to the acre, and there was nothing in between. And realistically, there's a lot of development around Missoula already that falls in that gap. But and we want to have a rail line connecting down to Bitterroot and through town that can be light rail. We've proposed to connect Russell Street through up to the interstate and put another interchange up there. Mullen Road, obviously, as it goes to the west, because that's one area where we can potentially grow. Another thing is a lot of the streets, as we're putting in new streets, we need to put in complete street systems to where we've got curb gutter, sidewalks, boulevard sorts of sidewalks, so that, because then you get a lot of the pedestrian facilities that go along with the streets that are being put in. We've got some of the rural cluster housing. We've increased density down around Lolo, obviously, and going down to Bitterroot. And I think we wound up with maybe 4 chips of 4,000 jobs that we didn't get placed. We sort of ran out of time as we ran out of people. I think that kind of hits the high points.
Thank you. Table number 9.
Hi, I'm Linda. We have something very interesting that's different from what a lot of people will see. And at our table, we had a city staff, an elected official, a real estate person, and a couple of nonprofit folks. And you can see this big red line from basically Lolo to, I guess, the Y. We had a couple of people at our table that thought a west side bypass was a good idea, although there was certainly strong opposition at our table for that. It felt like we had a lot more of these cards to place than what I'm seeing on some of the other maps, but maybe not so. We obviously like a lot of density in the downtown area, and certainly, town centers in Lolo, Bonner, and Frenchtown. We really like the idea of river trail systems on both sides of the river and up the Rattlesnake, on the road and up Grant Creek. Some of that's already happening. We felt commercial presence in all residential neighborhoods was important to help people sort of get out of their cars and walk to get that gallon of milk that you need at night. And we obviously like the idea of, transit and rail service. You can see on our map. Bike lanes on all the arterials. We had we put a Russell interchange up there too, but we did have a little bit of opposition at our table to that. And we had strong opposition to box centers and strip malls as commercial development, and we wanted to trade that off our map, but we were told we weren't allowed to do that. So we cut it up into little tiny pieces. Well, maybe we didn't, but and high frequency, obviously like everybody else, high frequency and bus service and access. And that pretty much covers it.
Close it out. Oh. All right. Thank you. Like I said, just a quick reminder, if you've got table notes, please write your table number and leave them. Grab a comment sheet on the way out. It's got our contact information. And if you think of something else you wish you would have said, it's an opportunity to do that. I want to thank you all very much for your hard work tonight. I think you all did a great job. Give yourself a hand.
Thank the facilitators, too.
And thanks to all the facilitators. You did great, too.